Story 1. My friend once told me he wasn't too concerned about using birth control because everyone knows the girl can only get pregnant if they both climax at the same time. His girlfriend was pregnant 3 months later. Story 2. I've posted this before, but what the hey? My aunt said Dutch people are from Denmark. I told her people from Denmark are Danish. The Dutch are from the Netherlands. She was like, no, sweetie, those are Neanderthals. Story 3. I jokingly told a coworker that Halloween was on Friday the 13th this year. His reply was, no, it's always the last Friday in October. Another coworker said, you're thinking of Christmas. It's always the third Thursday in December. Story 4. 2 women. Rita, is that you? Rita. Yes, it's been a long time. First woman. What did you do to your hair? It looks like a wig. Rita. It is a wig. First woman. Oh, you could never tell. Story 5. I was standing in line for the Stratosphere Tower in Las Vegas. 2 women in front of me were talking about the Beast roller coaster at Kings Island. They said they heard the train jump the track and killed everyone aboard, and the park was trying to cover it up. As a roller coaster enthusiast and a former Cincinnati resident, I had to speak up. I told them the Beast has never had a serious incident and certainly not a fatal one. One of them shot back, I know it happened because my cousin was on that train. She literally believes her cousin died in a roller coaster accident that would have made international news and would have been impossible to keep secret. Story 6. My dad once told me that the reason why his relationships with his ex-wife, my mom, and his new girlfriend fell apart must be because they were both the same zodiac sign. No, Dad, I think it's because you cheated on them. Story 7. My friend went for blood work for pre-diabetic testing after eating an entire Subway sandwich, claiming that they don't add sugar on top of the sandwich. Story 8. An ex-boyfriend, when discussing a pregnant person in a TV show, said, her belly is only big because she's been eating too much, and went on a rant about how it's possible to have a flat stomach during pregnancy and that women need to have self-control and not get big. Story 9. This was an actual conversation I heard coming from the balconies below my apartment about 20 years ago. Dude. Yeah, dude. It was followed by the fragrance of weed wafting up in the breeze. In hindsight, maybe it wasn't so dumb. Story 10. My mom was trying to convince the nurses in my labor and delivery room that the cold she had was not contagious because not all colds are contagious. We were all trying to tell her that a cold forms from a virus. She then explained to them that viruses are for bigger things like the flu. She went back and forth, and we all came to an agreement that we do not know what she has, so we do not want to find out if it is contagious or not near a newborn. Yes, she is narcissistic. Story 11. Had a coworker complaining about the ticket he got for not wearing a seatbelt. He agreed that everyone should wear them. He believes they are an important safety measure. He just refuses to wear one on principle because he believes the law stating he has to violates his right to travel. Story 12. I worked with a person who, when overhearing a conversation about spaying a kitten, said, I won't fix my cat. Takes away their choice. She was completely serious. I had to just walk away. Story 13. A girl named Kristen said she gets mad when people pronounce her name as Christian because her name is spelled with a K, not a CH, and the CH is what makes the cha sound in Christian. For different people told her that it's the tia in the middle of the word that makes the cha sound and not the CH at the beginning, and she still said we were all wrong. Story 14. My mother told me that famous people are paying for a recreational drug made from the adrenaline harvested from kidnapped and tortured children. That's right, the QAnon adrenochrome nonsense. She also told me that the floating hospital on the boat parked in the harbor in New York during the pandemic was actually a cover. There was an underground tunnel system at that location, and the boat was blocking the entrance. The hospital beds on board were not being used for COVID-19 patients, but were actually being used to treat the children rescued from these tunnels. I tried to inform her that adrenochrome is an actual drug used in cardiovascular surgery. It has been synthesized since 1906 and would be available for any famous person to purchase if they just contacted a doctor and pulled the right strings. Torture would not be necessary. She told me that I was a jerk. To this day, It was the most foolish conversation I've ever had. Story 15. They are saying they want $80 a month for internet. But I heard those new PlayStations have internet on them. So what I am going to do is just buy the PlayStation and use the internet on that so I do not have to pay for internet every month. This was about 10 years ago. I was eavesdropping on a conversation on the bus happening between two guys that just got out of prison. This guy thought he had figured out a loophole to not have to pay for internet service. I had the urge to tell him that even if he had a new PlayStation, it does not come with an internet service provider. It has internet-enabled services. So you still have to pay for an internet service provider on top of paying Sony for whatever services they are selling. But then I figured it was not worth my time. Story 16. That someone was going to get breast cancer because they put their phone in their bra. I put my phone in my bra all the time. I am pretty sure I will get breast cancer because it runs in my family. Almost all of my great aunts and some of their children are 3-time breast cancer survivors, except one who did not survive it the second time. I did not hear this in a conversation, but it was during my cousin's funeral. The minister, during the service, started telling a story about how once a woman came to him with her dead baby who had drowned and begged him for help. And he revived the little girl upon laying hands on her lifeless body. My cousin and his buddy had died in a car accident when they drove the car they were in into a flooded road. They flipped upside down into the swollen creek alongside the road and drowned. So during the service, I was thinking, okay, well, put your hands on David and Trent and bring them back to life. Then, this is so stupid. Like, read the room. Supposedly my aunt and uncle were regulars at the church he was the pastor at. The man sure did love to talk about himself and all of the wonderful things he has done for people. Story 17. My former coworker Kevin asked, "What's the address here?" I replied, "Blah blah blah, Arlington, Virginia, 22." Kevin said, "No, we're in Washington, D.C." I responded, "No, we're in Virginia." Kevin brought up a map and said, "See the diamond? We're in Washington, D.C." I replied, "No, Washington, D.C. gave this part back to Virginia." "It's Virginia." Kevin insisted. "Washington, D.C. would never do that." I suggested, "Put blah blah blah, Arlington, Virginia, 22, into the map." Kevin, after putting the address in the map, said, "It's wrong." Story 18. I'm never going to donate blood. What? Why not? What if I am going to have an accident in a few years? Who says my blood will be there and not in someone else's body? Very funny. No, I am being serious. Besides that, he is a pretty smart guy, which makes this more ridiculous for me. Story 19. Young woman at a mall fast food place. Ugh. All they have here are products. I hate products. Or, the trees don't match my outfit here. Somebody should have told me. Story 20. I was walking from the office to the train station with one of my colleagues. We were talking about our kids, and I mentioned that my son, 3 at the time, liked watching the washing machine go around. She told me I shouldn't let him do that as it would cause autism. Now, my son is on the spectrum, but I think the fascination with the washing machine was a symptom, not a cause. Story 21. My wife's friend's husband was talking about catching gay. He said, "Say you're the only straight person with 4 or 5 gay roommates. Eventually, you're going to want to try something with one of them." My old coworker, who is severely overweight and unhealthy, said, "I am so proud of myself. I went to Country Buffet for lunch and ate nothing but salad. I had 3-bean salad, potato salad, and macaroni salad." He was completely serious. Story 22. I didn't know there was a difference between cups and quarts. This was said by my ex when she wasn't my ex, after she made a mistake with soup from a mixture. She added 8 quarts instead of 8 cups. For those who don't know, 8 cups is 2 quarts. She basically quadrupled the amount of water. If I take that at face value, it is not very smart. If she just didn't read the first or second line of the instructions, that is also not very smart. After being with her, I honestly can't tell which it was. Not smart, lying, or deliberate incompetence. Story 23. Once in a bus, I overheard someone explaining to his companion that, based on the fact that it takes a virus to kill a virus, West Nile is the key to eliminating acquired immune deficiency syndrome. Story 24. Does this staircase go up and down? I assume they meant is it for two-way traffic, as there are also stairs on the other side of the room, but asking if they go up and down was so weird. Story 25. North is that way. Now north is that way. I argued with two people over this in school. They ended up going to our geography teacher to try to prove themselves right and did not believe her when she told them otherwise. Story 26. I grew up being taught that Pluto was a planet, only for it to get demoted and our later classes changing their lessons here and there. I thought it was just an interesting experience to have and was talking about it with my parents. Mom says, "Oh yeah, didn't they find out Pluto is a star?" Like, I love my mom and everyone is ignorant in some area or another, but wow. Story 27. She doesn't need a water bowl. She doesn't drink. From my ex's brother in regard to his indoor-outdoor cat when I asked him where her water bowl was. He came to the conclusion that she must somehow be a breatharian. Story 28. I worked with a woman who claimed she only pooped 2 or 3 times a year. This was because her metabolism was so high and her food intake was so small that her body tended to absorb and convert everything she ate into energy. Story 29. Anyone who believes that QAnon crap about tunnels and adrenochrome and Hillary and pizza shops, etc., and vegans trying to stop people from eating meat by telling them to eat their dog. Story 30. When I did tattoos, I had a guy come into the shop who wanted Mr. 113 on his wrist. Not really all that out of the ordinary. We got it drawn up, my coworker placed it, and she started to do the tattoo. As soon as she started, the guy screamed in pain and jumped up. What the hell is in that thing? Is there a needle in there? That hurts. What? This guy was in his 30s or 40s. How do you not know how tattoos are done? He said, I don't know. Just thought it was some permanent ink or something. The guy went outside for almost an hour to smoke and, I guess, hype himself up. He got the outline done at least, but couldn't take the pain anymore and didn't get it filled. Still can't believe he didn't know tattoos were done with a needle. Story 31. I've got 2 from the same person. She, an 18-year-old female, was complaining that her leg hurt. Eventually, she jumped up and started running around, freaking out about how much her leg hurt. I got her to sit down and told her she might be having a panic attack. I took her pulse and said, "No, your pulse isn't too fast." She replied, "Is it too slow?" The problem wasn't her leg. It was that she wasn't getting enough attention. Another time, she was annoyed that she wasn't getting enough attention, so she said she thought she was pregnant. I felt my stomach fall. I hadn't slept with her, so I knew I wasn't the father, but I knew she'd be a terrible mother and would foist raising her kid on her parents and friends. The next day, she was all happy again. I asked about her pregnancy. She said, "Oh, I'm not pregnant." I asked how she knew, had she taken a pregnancy test? She replied, "No, I thought I was pregnant because I'd put on a little weight." At that point, I distanced myself from her. I knew that something bad was going to happen at some point, and I didn't want to be around when it did. Story 32. A few years ago, I was going to university by train, and a few chatty old ladies came to sit in the chairs opposite me. They were reading a newspaper together, checking out the movie section to see what was new in cinemas. Then one of them said to the other, translating from another language here, but this was the gist of it. I heard 1917 also is an extraordinary movie. It's about the French Revolution. Story 33. It was September 11th. I was in high school and we were all watching, horrified, as we saw the towers collapse live. All of us were talking to each other, and a girl just blurted out, "You know what my favorite animal is? Elephants." I'm sure it was just the stress and her being overwhelmed, but I swear I heard a record scratch. Story 34. Not me, but my friend worked at Mount Rainier. Had several tourists, rhymes with morons, ask where the elevator to the top of the mountain was. No, there isn't one. Story 35. A customer at work asked me what my name was because I had used a nickname of mine instead. I told him, and he asked if I was Hispanic, to which I replied yes. He then asked if I was Mexican, and when I told him no, he spent the next minute trying to guess where. Eventually, he tells me, "So you're a migrant worker? It must be hard being away from your family. Must be doing a lot of FaceTime. I've lived in Canada my whole life, am in my last year of high school, and have no accent whatsoever. Story 36. I knew a lady who thought everything could be explained by astrology. Nothing specific here, just everything revolved around people's sign. It was truly bizarre. Story 37. I was just in Dubrovnik on holiday, a beautiful old city surrounded by walls on the coast. I heard an accent I recognized as from my country say, "Whoever built the city wasn't very bright. They really didn't need to build these walls so high just to keep the ocean out." Story 38. I was asked where they mined tin foil. The idiot thought it came out of the ground in long sheets. I can't remember his name, but if it was you, you are the most overly confident stupid person I have ever met. Story 39. Years back, I overheard this guy at a newsstand in Portland discussing the mockumentary CSA, the Confederate States of America. The worker was pretty ready to end the small talk, but the old guy kept going and said, "Yeah, and Abraham Lincoln dressed up as a woman to escape. I never knew about that, but this guy's movie showed the film of it." The clerk was a bit taken aback. That's a fake story. That movie is set in an alternate reality where the Confederacy won the Civil War." The old guy seemed frustrated and shook his head. "Nope. This was a documentary. It was on Oregon Public Broadcasting. I think it's real." The clerk suddenly said, "Hey, I have to get back to work." The old guy seemed flustered, waved him away, shook his head, muttering to himself, and left.